Hello everyone, my name is Maya and thank you so much for joining me for my presentation. Today I'll be talking about generosity feeds. In September of 2019, I had a meeting with Pastor Troy. In this meeting, we were throwing around ideas about potential capstone projects, and that's when he said that I should consider working with generosity feeds. Generosity Feeds is an organization committed to addressing childhood food scarcity, and once I heard their mission statement, I knew that this is what I wanted to do for my project. In order to give you a better idea of what a Generosity Feeds event is and what it looks like, I'll be inserting pictures while I'm speaking. Essentially, you need to secure a location and a date. This location needs to be able to host around 250 to 350 volunteers. For a 2-hour window, those volunteers will spend time packaging meals that look like this. These meals are made in an assembly line fashion. At the end of the assembly line, they're heat sealed. They stay good for over a year, I believe. They're also 2 servings, and they're easy to make so that children who want them after school don't have to wait for their parents to get home in order for them to make them. And then once those meals are packaged, you'll put 25 of them in the box, close the box, and eventually, after 10,000 meals are packaged, all of these boxes will be divided amongst local elementary schools for children in need. I saw Generosity Feeds as a great opportunity to practice being a persuader, to use information that I had used in my Com 450 class, Persuasion, and ultimately to practice what I want to do after college, which is to organize and host events. I also recognized that there was a need in Eugene and Springfield for this kind of work specifically. In Lane County, 1 in every 2 elementary school kids depends on free and reduced lunch. In order to raise $10,000, I had to have some sort of plan. I used persuasive strategies from my Com 450 class, and I created one. It consisted of 4 conditions: one-on-one, broadcasting, the volunteer condition, and the donor condition. Now, ideally, these persuasive strategies would influence the likelihood that people were to give their time, their money, and to buy into the message of Generosity Feeds. This event was set to take place anywhere from late February to early April. My goal was to raise $10,000 to package 10,000 meals for local children in need. This event was up in the air as to whether it would be hosted at the Morse Event Center or Holt Elementary School. Unfortunately, this event was canceled. Initially, it was canceled due to an inability by me and my mentors to secure a date and a time. Then, it would eventually be canceled anyways because all events through May would become canceled because of COVID-19. In addition to those 2 obstacles, in February, I got a concussion, and it's just made everything really hard since then. This presentation will be a reflection on the work that I did get to do before this event was canceled. As a little more background before I begin my presentation, I need you guys to know who Aaron Box is. Aaron Box is a local pastor for North Park Community Church, and he is the person who I was interning with last fall when I began working with Generosity Feeds. I did get to experience 1 full Generosity Feeds event before pursuing my own, and that was in October of last year. In the one-on-one condition, I wanted to create a team of people who were just as passionate about Generosity Feeds as I was. Aaron Box and I had always agreed that in order to raise $10,000, it would take a team. I planned on doing this by speaking to leaders on campus about the possibility of joining me in fundraising for Generosity Feeds. These leaders included the heads of teams, clubs, and even administration. I drew this from persuasion, specifically from social influence and liking. Social influence is the idea that you are more likely to do something if everyone around you, especially influential people, are doing it too. Liking is the idea that if you're attractive, charismatic, or charming, that you're more persuasive. And both of these ideas, these principles, come from Cialdini. In the one-on-one condition, I did get to make some progress. I presented my capstone to some administration, faculty, students, specifically team captains, chaplain captains, and other influential people on campus, and I asked for their opinions and their participation in my event. After I presented my project to these people, I had people contacting me, asking me how they could get involved, what the date was, and more information, and that just showed me how influential these people on campus really were. For the potential donor condition, my goal was for the donors to process my persuasive message centrally. This idea comes from the elaboration likelihood model. The elaboration likelihood model recognizes 2 ways of processing persuasive messages: centrally and peripherally. If an audience is to process a message centrally, then 3 conditions must be met. The audience must be undistracted, motivated, and they must interpret the message as relevant or urgent to them. In order to prevent potential donors from being distracted, I went to a lot of businesses in person. I tried not to call or email if I could help it because I knew that there was risk for being distracted if I wasn't face-to-face interacting with someone. In order to be motivated about a problem, you have to know about the problem. So one extra step I took is I created packets of information provided by both me, Aaron, and Generosity Feeds, and I brought them to every business that I visited. In these packets of information included everything you need to know about Generosity Feeds, their mission statement, who I was, what the goal was, and deadlines. And I believe it is these deadlines that provided a sense of urgency to some of the potential donors. A lot of what I had initially planned to accomplish didn't happen because this event got canceled. But one thing that I was still successful in to a smaller degree was raising $1,500 rather than $10,000 in the potential donor condition. In the broadcasting condition, I was planning on using ICT succession theory from Steffens. ICT stands for Information and Communication Technologies. Succession theory states that by evaluating auditory, visual, and text found in ICTs, we can foretell how to use follow-up or successive ICTs to complete tasks successfully. In addition to sending follow-up emails after chapel, the idea was for the speaker to have social influence and to be likable, just like the leaders were in the one-on-one condition. We never got close enough to the event for any of the persuasive strategies in the broadcasting condition to be used, and the same goes for the volunteer condition. Unlike the potential donor condition, I wanted volunteers to process my persuasive message peripherally. To peripherally process a persuasive message means to make a decision based on that message using minimal effort and based on the attractiveness of the message. Unlike a centrally processed message, a peripherally processed message is typically not long-lasting, but thankfully it didn't need to be. All we were asking of volunteers was to donate their time for 2 hours and 1 time. Foot in the door request is a strategy by Berger, and the idea is that you make a small request followed by a larger request. For a lot of the volunteers, once they had dedicated 2 hours of their time and saw the impact that this event would have on the community, they were more likely to donate to future events. We capitalized on this strategy by asking for donations during and after the event for upcoming events, and we raised around $100 using this strategy. After the October event, all of the volunteers were sent emails every month asking them to participate in the next event and to potentially donate. Besides the main goal of this condition being to have participants, another goal was to get them to sign up in a timely manner. I planned on having people sign up in a timely manner by using the principle of scarcity from Cialdini. This idea is that if there is a limited number of sign-ups, then people are more likely to sign up quicker. For about a month leading up to the October event of 2019, emails and posts on social media were sent out saying how many spots were left up to sign up for. I believe that this helped to create a sense of urgency, and had we gotten close enough to the event in 2020 to implement this, I think it really would have been effective. In addition to the 4 conditions that I used as persuasive strategies to help get this event to happen, I also had to secure the elementary schools that would be participating in this event. And so below, as I'm speaking, I'll be inserting some pictures regarding the materials that I sent them and things of that nature. I have learned so much from this project. I've learned more about marketing, fundraising, professionalism, how to work with people who are very different from myself, and how to manage an event to some degree. A couple of more things that I've learned are event timelines, time management, and also knowing your role, knowing the importance of asking other people what their roles are and how you're expected to contribute. This event and my project matter for multiple reasons. The first being that Generosity Feeds represents more meaning in the sense that we should care about our community around us. We should care about the vulnerable people in our community, and part of that means feeding hungry children. Part of that means taking the time out of our day to help those who are less fortunate than us. Also, I am so thankful to have been able to take class content and to make it applicable to my real life. I feel like that is one of the biggest complaints about schooling is that you'll never use it, but I feel like not only with persuasion, but all of my communication classes, I will always use them, especially persuasion, considering that I want to go into event planning. Regardless of whether me and my mentors would have been able to get on the same page about logistics, time, and date for this event, it wouldn't have happened because of COVID-19. And I'm almost glad that it didn't happen, because had it gone perfectly, I wouldn't have learned as much. I really feel like this experience has just furthered my passion to want to be an event planner and has prepared me even better for that than it would have if this event went well. After the Generosity Feeds event was canceled, Generosity Feeds administration reached out to me and asked what they could do to make it better or to help. I said that I didn't really have anything, except that if they were looking for someone, I would love to join their team. Had this event gone well, I don't know if I would have had access to the higher administration like I did and got the opportunity to work with them post-graduation like I do now. I apologize for the change in lighting, but I realized that something important that I forgot to say is whether, if I could do this project again, if there was anything that I would change, and there is. It is important to communicate with all of your team members what form of communication works best for you. And sometimes, even if somebody's not answering, it doesn't mean that they still don't expect to be communicated with. It simply means that that's not their best form of communication. So that's a huge thing that I would recommend not only everyone watching take into consideration, but that I will carry with me for all future events. To add on to that, silence from someone does not mean take more control of the situation always. And that's important to consider too, because the incident I ran into, once it was time to reconnect after that person hadn't responded for so long, they had no idea what was going on, and it is the main reason that this event fell apart. Lastly, I would have just stuck to a timeline better. Even if this event would have happened, we wouldn't have hit our financial goals because of the lack of communication we had overall. So better communication and a stricter timeline would have set this event up better for success. Thank you so much for joining me for my presentation. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the section below and I'll be addressing them. Thank you so much.